Hi everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards, and today I'm doing a profile of Johnny Unitas. I'm going to be showing off his cards from 1957 to 1974, Topps in Philadelphia. I have the complete run of those cards here. And really what got me going with this video was Brian's channel, Bear Cards 34. He asked who our favorite player was that isn't on our favorite team. And I'm a Cowboys and Bills fan, so my favorite player who's not on those teams is Johnny Unitas. I grew up a big admirer of Unitas's. I never saw him play, but he's somebody that just really always intrigued me. I don't know really specifically what it is about him. Maybe it's his name, Johnny Unitas. It's just a great sports name, just real catchy. He had that flat top hairstyle there that you can see depicted on the 69 Topps card, which I always liked. I'm just somebody that really connects with the past, and I just enjoy the era of the 1950s and the pop culture at that time. Just something that really captivates me, and just something that I like to really read about and watch videos on. And it also could be that he just was a great quarterback as well at that time. So when he retired, he was the all-time touchdowns leader with 290. He also was the all-time yardage leader, and he was the first quarterback to ever throw for over 40,000 yards. So he really held those big records when he retired, in addition to being a 3-time MVP, a 5-time first-team All-Pro, and a 10-time Pro Bowler. And then he also won 3 championships. And he's the guy that put the NFL on the map as a player, because I was at 1958 championship game with the Giants when the Colts won 23-17 in front of just a tremendous audience in the United States that really got exposed to football on television. And the sport really took off from there. So he was really the face of the game during that time, and just one of those guys that, like I said, just drew me in. And he's somebody that's always going to be collectible, and just one of the great players that I just really enjoy having in my collection. So now we just take a little bit closer a look at Johnny Unitas. It was Sid Luckman, who was the Hall of Fame quarterback, who said that Johnny Unitas was the best quarterback he ever saw. And Luckman was a Hall of Famer, as I said, with the Bears, who played in the 1940s and early 50s. And Bart Starr and Joe Namath also said they studied Unitas closely because they just admired his ability to perform so well under pressure. And that was something that was also said by his teammate, wide receiver Raymond Berry. And he said what made Unitas great was his uncanny instinct for calling the right play at the right time. And Sam Huff said one time that he called 9 different defenses on Johnny Unitas in a game, and he beat him on every single one. So the Hall of Fame linebacker Sam Huff then goes into the huddle and says, "I'm out of defenses. Do any of you have any ideas?" Unitas was just that kind of guy. When you thought he was going to throw, he ended up doing a run. If he was going to run the ball, you thought, he'd end up throwing the ball. He just always was a step ahead of everybody on the field. And he just had such a fierce competitiveness about him. He grew up, his father had died when he was 5 years old, and he had to work hauling coal during the Depression at 8 years old to help the family put food on the table. So he really was somebody that just earned everything he got. And when he tried out for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1956, after he was drafted, they cut him. Actually, it was 1955 when he was drafted. They cut him. And Tim Rooney, the son of the owner at the time, Art Rooney, wrote his dad a letter saying, how could they cut this guy? He was the best quarterback they had in camp. And Johnny Unitas was a real fiery character, and he ended up, when the Steelers cut him, he told them, you didn't even give me a chance to show what I could do. He goes, I can understand if I messed up, but I didn't even have a chance to perform on this team. So he really told him his mind when he left there. And then he ended up playing semi-pro ball, and he won a championship in the semi-pro league. And then the Colts ended up signing him. The general manager of the Colts gave him a tryout, and they ended up signing him. And he was the backup quarterback in 1956. And then what occurred forever changed the history of the team's fortunes, is in the 4th game of that season, the starting quarterback for the Colts got hurt. And his name was George Shaw, and then Johnny Unitas took over. And then in Johnny Unitas' first play, he throws an interception. And then he also had an exchange during that game with the running back that led to a fumble. But his teammates always said that, Unitas recovered so quickly, which is really important in great athletes, is that you kind of forget the mistakes and move on. So now let's go through some of the cards here. So you have this 1957 Topps here, which is his rookie card. And I've shown this in a couple other videos, just a card I'm real proud to have in my collection. Nice example of that one. And then you have the 58 tops, which is really the year that he became the great quarterback that everybody knew about when they were ripping those packs that year. I'm sure the kids would have wanted this one. Just a beautiful orange border there around the card. That nice inset photo of him. And that was the year that he led the league in touchdowns for the first time. And then 59 was a really big breakout year for him as far as statistics go. He led the league in touchdowns. He led the league in completions, yards. He won his first MVP that year. The Colts ended up defending their championship again against the Giants, beating them in the NFL championship game. So that was his second title as well. And then over here, you got the 1960 tops. And this was kind of always a weird-looking card. I'm going to hone in a little bit on it. That expression on his face, I've seen lots of videos on Johnny Unitas. I've never seen such a look on his face before. So you have to kind of wonder, what was he thinking at this time? Was he joking around? Was it just the timing of the photo itself? But Topps ended up including it in the set, which I think is kind of cool. And what's really cool here as well, as you can see here, is that he's the #1 card in 1959, the #1 card in 1960, and he goes on to be the #1 card in the set from 1959 all the way until 1963, 5 straight years. I don't know of any other athlete that has ever been the #1 card by a major card company in a set that I can think of. So Johnny Unitas did it 5 times in a row, which I think is really impressive and kind of just shows you the type of player he was in the NFL, and really Topps marketed him heavily by putting him as the first card in the set. He would be the lead guy that would be in those stacks of cards. And then here you have this 1961 Topps, which is just, this is a great image of Unitas here. And you got that black part on the bottom there, that ribbon on the bottom with the white lettering for the name, and then the position and team there. And this really pops with that nice flush of yellow color behind him with that blue jersey. Just a great smiling image of Unitas. And then the 62 Topps really is one of his most popular cards. This is a tough issue to get in high grade. This is a #1 card with those black borders, so you have those issues of the #1 card plus the borders. But what I really like about this card is that photo right there. That's Johnny U. That's him throwing the ball, where he would flip his hand when he would throw it, and he'd throw it directly over his shoulder. You can see his rounded shoulders there. He really didn't look like much of an athlete, but he sure was an athletic person when he got on that field. He was just such a small guy, though. He was never really that big. And they say some guys would come in, they would mistake him for a coach or even one of the trainers or something, and not a quarterback, just because he was so slight a build. And then here's the 63 Topps. This would be the last year he was the #1 card in the set. And in 1963, this was the year that he had his career high in passing yards with 3,481. And that would be the 4th and final time he led the league in passing yards. Just just another great image of him hiking the ball there. And then you have the 1964 Philadelphia. So this is the first year that Philadelphia started making the NFL cards. And in this season, he led the team to a 12-2 record, and he won his second MVP that year. And I just, like this action shot of him, or not action shot, but this pose shot of him right here. And then you have the 65 and 66 Philadelphia cards. Just another images of him posed there holding the ball, which you see a lot of him. But I like this 66 with that nice coloring there, like a baby blue. Then you got the sky and the blue jersey. It just really all works well together on this card. And this is, the kind of the quintessential quarterback shot with them holding the ball. And just, this is a good expression of how Unitas looked versus that 1960 Topps. This is more the way I remember him looking. And then in the 67 Philadelphia, this, I've talked about this up before with the yellow borders, and then you got that nice blue there on the card again. This is his only card where the main portrait of him got his helmet on. It shows it also in the 62 Topps, but that's in the action shot. This is his only card that ever was made during his playing days where he had his helmet on. And this is also his 3rd MVP season, which was his last really great season. He threw for over 3,400 yards and 20 touchdowns, leading the Colts to 11-1-2 record. And Unitas was really, really a tough player. I mean, he would go down the field and hit guys in order to protect the runners. He would get clobbered a lot, getting the ball thrown. I mean, this was a tough era for quarterbacks. And you can see how big the ball is here, too. The football was a lot bigger back then than it is today. It's much more aerodynamic today than it was back then. So these guys that talk about statistics and they try to measure statistics from that era to this era, you can't really do that because the sport is so different, the way the receivers were covered. And that all changed in 1978, mainly with the Mel Blount rule that really changed and opened up offenses. And Unitas didn't have any chance to play during that time. But his numbers really stand up pretty well. He was an exceptional quarterback, both statistically and also just, how he played the game as a leader. So you can see here 69, 70, and 71 cards. In 1970, the Colts won their third Super Bowl that year. Their first Super Bowl, and Unitas won his third championship that year. And he was a starting quarterback in the Super Bowl, but he got knocked out in the second quarter, and Earl Morrall came in and finished the game for him. But the Colts did end up beating the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. And then in 1971, he's the number 1 card in the set again, as you can see right up there. Another tough issue with these red borders, but just a really nice-looking card of his. I think it's an older photo because he didn't have a flat top, I believe, in 70 and 71. He started growing his hair out. And then down here in 72, this would be the first year that he actually had his hair growing out, as you can see. And then it's got that nice pink around it and the inset color with those large Colts letters. And it's a horizontal shot, which I like. Just a beautiful card of him. And it's a good way to go out as a Colt. And then you see him here with the Chargers, even though he's got a Colts jersey on. And then he finished his career with the Chargers in 73 with a 1-3 record. His last game started was Game 4 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that originally cut him. And he pretty much got knocked around pretty bad in that game and was replaced by future Hall of Famer Dan Fouts. And that was the end of Unitas' career. And he did have a card in 74, even though he didn't play any games. And here he is with the Chargers, actually in his Chargers uniform. So that's my profile on Johnny Unitas. And I just really appreciate everybody watching, and real happy to show this collection off because he's just somebody that I do think a lot of. And I put a video down below of a documentary that was on HBO about him that I think is just fantastic. And if you have some time, I do recommend watching it if you want to learn even more about him. Have a great day.